I just stand? Shall I stand?
Yeah, you can either stand or you can sit down if you like.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's
Yeah,
easier, and then I'll introduce you and you can come up if you like. But yeah, it's just the right button. So yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming for today's talk on Wolfson Gardens and well-being. I'm Oscar Holgate. I'm the head gardener here at Wolfson, and it's a pleasure to be giving you this talk today. Wolfson was first established properly in the 70s, and the garden since then has come a huge way. The history of garden used to be mainly just conifers. There's a famous company that came in and changed everything into this 70s themed conifer garden. And then we were lucky enough that Phil Stigwood took over as head gardener, and in his 20 years of being here, he brought it round to a more ergonomical garden that the students and staff and fellows can use with a lot of fun, a lot of interest, and it's a real plantsman garden. The aim of the talk today is to really give you an idea of what Wolfson Garden has, what we've been doing, and where we will be going. I'll get Millie to come up later to talk about the student garden and understand everything that's happening that you can get involved in and what is new and things that you won't understand that you might learn something new here today as well. So at the moment we have about 120 staff on site and near to 430 or more, up to 500 students on site. So we have a lot of people that actually use the Wolfson facilities, and that means on our 10-acre site we've got a lot of gardens with a lot of rooms, and we really enjoy people getting out and about and enjoying what we have. We want them to learn, to engage with what we have, and just to be inspired. My job as a head gardener is to not just look after the grounds and make them look pretty, is to work with the conditions we have, to inspire, to teach, and to bring the gardens to a real high standard that people can understand is a real environmental use with insects, with wildlife, and place for the students to get their hands grubby and to use and enjoy from. So moving forward, we'll be making a lot of changes. We're seeing a lot of environmental impacts in the world at the moment with climate change. And one of these problems is water. And where did all the water go? So 25th July 2019 was the hottest day in Cambridge. It beat the previous record of 38.5 in Kent. And this is going to start becoming more of a trend. It's something that we really need to keep our eye on and actually really take seriously. It's very easy just to sort of leave the tap running while you're brushing your teeth or having that longer shower or not utilizing water where you should be. But my job is to maybe just point out a few bits to you to maybe shock you so that we can change our behavior. All of us have crimes where we do things we shouldn't based on the environment. And so I want to encourage people to really have the environment in mind to do well and to better themselves, as per myself. Cambridge rainfall averages around 570 mil per year, and this is the national average, which is half, really. And that's quite worrying. I'm from Marlborough in Wiltshire, and even the weather there is wetter than it is here, and that's 2.5 hours away. And that is a real concern. The gardening here, we're noticing over the last few years, is getting drier and warmer, and there are much more prolonged periods. It's something that we are looking really into detail about how we garden well with that. And thanks to Chris Clark, the president's husband, he brought into place a structure to add more water butts to the site. And so we're able to add about 9,000 litres of holding water to the grounds, and we'll still be looking at ways we can actually hold more water and utilise it better. The period of March to May 2020 was the fourth driest period since 1892. So again, it's a trend that is worrying, and we just have to see how it goes. There's no quick fix, but every little detail that we change ourselves, it's a drop in the ocean that can make a big change. So it's something that we hope we can encourage others to do to make bigger change within Cambridge and then within the country and hopefully within the world. And as I say, we hold 9,000 litres of collected rainwater, and that's not just per year. We can use those 9,000 litres up in the summer, and then we can have a couple of heavy showers and it regenerates itself. So we really are doing quite well at collecting water. What I'm hoping is if we do build on Wolfson, the new builds, we'll be looking at how we can really rain harvest well and just look at the environmental impact on how we can be a positive impact here at Wolfson. What can you do? Well, there's quite a few bits you can do. Maybe be conscious of your shower time. A lot of people might have a 15-20 minute shower. Maybe time it and have a shorter shower. Sometimes being quick is efficient. A lot of the things you can do in work is efficient, so maybe make your shower time efficient. It will save a huge amount of water. And then if you save up your dirty laundry and you wash at 30, you'll get more in a load, and then you'll save water via that way. Instead of putting on small loads and doing many loads, maybe think about doing one big load. And little things like that, again, make a big difference. Turning off your tap when brushing your teeth, again, saves many litres. And reporting any leaks or dripping taps. You'll be surprised how much water a dripping tap can use. So just being really aware of your behaviour can make a big difference to the environment. What we're also very worried about is the trees. We're seeing a lot of stress in the trees the last 3 years with the droughts. And there can, I'm told, be a delay. So if you have one drought 1 year, there's a 3-year delay until you see the issues arising from that. And so this year we had a lot of dead wooding happen with our tree surgeons. And there's a talk of a tree that really is failing, an ash. So we're starting to see a lot of tree impact with these droughts. I'm told that whenever we future plan for new trees, we should be planting Mediterranean trees. So I'll certainly be researching things like that because we are seeing a more Mediterranean type climate. The wildlife. Now this is one of the exciting topic I love about Wolfson. My job is so varied that we have so many different gardens here with all different aspects of plants and interest that we also have a varied amount of wildlife. I've been around the greenhouse, think that there's a blackbird rustling in the hedge, and out comes a monkjack to my surprise. So I've had a few little shocks along the way of my 3 years. But what we want to encourage you is to become more part of our wildlife audits. The pictures you can see there, just taken on my phone, nothing too spectacular, but they are just quite fun to observe and to enjoy what we have and to make note of what we have. We're lucky enough this year to take part in the President's Pond project. The pond hadn't been re-established for about 8 years. It had a lot of debris, a lot of mess left in there. So we got our waders on, took out all the mud, found a few little wildlife bits on their own. There was frogs and what have you. And so we completely emptied it, started again, took out the fish, and we've allowed it now just to become completely wildlife. It's really good that Will, the senior gardener, has put a planting plan in place. And we've already seen a lot of interest from rehabilitation of some things that have come back in. So we'll be seeing a lot of improvement with the wildlife just using that space. And we'll be keeping on top of what wildlife can use it. And hopefully you'll be able to come and do an audit of that pond itself and enjoy it yourself. Also at the back of the Chancellor's Centre, we took off the turf and we replaced it with a wildflower meadow. So that's been exciting. It's not going to be kings. They're absolutely spectacular at what they do. This is a different aspect. So our seed choice had to be very much different. But we're looking forward to you enjoying that space next year. And we'll have an audit on that, on what insects can use that and the types of flowers there are. And just the general use for the students will be fantastic. And we really want you to get involved in the bird boxes and bug hotels. It gets you out from reading your books, and it takes you out into the garden to use your hands and use a practical use of tools to make something that can be utilised by the wildlife that's around. And there are actually some birds we don't have on site because we don't have facilities for them, but that doesn't mean we can't have them on site. So we'll be putting things in place to allow them to take up home around the site, and we'll be utilising the spaces and deciding what's good for them, which areas are best for them, and the types of hotels we also want. So look out for things like that. So like I say, we want you to really get involved. Wolfson is a 10-acre site, so there's a varied amount you can do. And the Wildlife Audit 22 will be something that will be new. We'll be looking at doing, so the bug hotels we'll be doing an audit on, but we'll also be looking at moths, and we'll decide what type of moths we have on site and just other types of wildlife we have here. Lots of us have smartphones, so get out, take photos of it, sit there, find what comes to you and enjoy it. Send your photographs to us as well. It becomes part of an audit. It might be that there's a badger you haven't seen in Chadwick that's recently took up home. So we really need you to get looking all through the day, early mornings, late at nights, potentially when we're not here as gardeners. So do get out there and interact with the gardens yourself and share it and show it. And just sit and observe. The amount of birds we do have on site, the amount of insects and pollinators we have on site is fantastic. And when you really sit and observe, you really start to enjoy the area and you just feel at peace and you just become really inclusive of that area and just enjoy the wildlife that are there. But we are working hard to encourage more wildlife. It's something that we all need to do, all need to play our part in. We're seeing decline of bee numbers, so it's just really important we are starting to do our part. But we don't just want to do that as the gardening department, we really want to get you involved and just enjoying it. And Millie, thankfully, has been able to take some video here of some wildlife. Oh no, that's disappeared, sorry. Apologies. There we are, fox right there. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And then one of my better ones here is that lovely one of a monkjack. Absolutely brilliant. That's in the student garden. That's normally around where they can be seen around Barton. And this was probably potentially middle of the day, 6 a.m. But yeah, they can be seen middle of the day. They are absolutely brilliant fun. And again, just one of my photos there, nothing spectacular, but just beautiful butterfly. And it's just really enjoyable just to interact with what's around you. So I'm going to head over now to Millie, who's going to talk about the student garden and your well-being. So allow her to share her part in what she plays with the student garden.
Thank you. Is that? Yeah, that's okay. So hello, I'm Millie. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a PhD student, but I'm also running the student garden this year. And so I think I've been doing it for about a year now. So I've had a whole growing season, and I'm going to talk to you about what we do and what our plans are, and also something about well-being, just to have a think about and just to show how I've enjoyed the gardens this year and how it's improved my well-being. So the student garden was started in 2018 by 3 students, Matilde, Elsa and Georgia, and also with the help of Chris Clark, the president's husband. And obviously at Wolfson we have a really high turnover of students. We have students come for almost 9 months at a time and constantly turning over new faces and new ideas. And so the student garden really adapts depending on what they want that year. You know, if someone really wants to try something, we'll really aim to get that growing and get it happening. But there's no set plan, basically, is what I'm saying. We really just take it year by year and see what happens. For example, this year or last year, we tried to grow some peas and beans and they did not work out well at all, so we won't be doing that next year. But we have some students that are really keen to try and grow some courgettes and some pumpkins or something, so we'll just take that on board and see if we can make it happen, but also sticking with our regulars that do work, which is lettuce and beetroot, which we really enjoyed last year. We also have leeks in the ground, which you can see in that picture, and we also have onions and garlic, which we planted last week. We're also trying to expand our horizons, so we're doing quite a few projects this year which are a bit different. For example, a cut flower garden, where we're learning how to grow our own flowers and might even do flower arranging at the end of the year. And also a school garden project, which I'm currently working on, which might help with some kind of community involvement, which is a bit different to what we were doing before. So if anyone wants to get involved, please contact me. I'd just love to have some more people join us, and it's really a no commitment thing. It's just turn up, and if you want to get involved, you can, just for one session or for every single week. So I also wanted to touch on well-being. So mental health and well-being is something that people talk about a lot in the media at the moment, and it's really like a kind of hot topic, which is really brilliant because it really shows that the companies and organisations are thinking about their staff members and the students, for example, at the university. I think it's really important to note that we're living in a really beautiful place, and we're really lucky that we have these gardens. So how can we bring this well-being and mental health sort of fad and sort of take it with us in our daily lives, especially as members of the Wolfson community? So there's this really interesting article that Oscar and I read this week that was published last year, and it says that spending time in a garden is actually more beneficial for your mental health and well-being than just being in a green space. So they compared the two different groups, so people that spent time in a private garden with like flowers and more diversity versus people that only had access to sort of green spaces like parks. And actually the garden, even though they're the same like outdoors, the garden did actually bring more positive like health benefits. So it's really interesting to think about that, and it's really important that we make the most of the environment that we're living in Wolfson. So I just wanted to share like 3 little like tips that maybe you could take with your daily life to think about well-being and also gardens. So the first one is to sit with nature, and this is something that I've been doing for the past year, especially over the lockdown, and really just take the time to sit in your garden or in the Wolfson Gardens and just experience all of the senses that go on in the garden. So for example, what's the air like? Like, what's the quality of the air? Like, can you feel how humid it is? Can you feel how cold it is? What are the sounds? How much are the sounds man-made and how much are they natural? Like, what birds can you hear? And also, what plants are surviving? Which ones are doing well at this day on this time of year? Which ones aren't doing well? And that kind of thing is basically mindfulness, and it is meditation. But for me, who has like quite a busy brain, I find that just sitting in like a dark room with nothing to sort of focus on and trying to be mindful, I find that really, really difficult. But being in the garden, there's so much to engage your brain in that it is a really good distraction from daily life. So that's one tip. The next one is get growing. Obviously, I'm biased because I really love gardening, but I think there's something about the community spirit of growing things and getting things started and getting your hands in the soil that really makes you feel grounded and sort of connected with the earth. And I think that's something that we all need to focus on and if we can, use every day. There's some kind of embarrassing graffiti that's gone up in on my way to work, and it's like a mushroom with all of the roots going down, and it says we're all connected. And I think it's some kind of like hippie movement, but I kind of thought about it and I was like, I actually do agree with that. Like, I think that something about like feeling connected to the earth and seeing the seasons change and understanding the climate of where you live, there's something about that makes you feel really connected to each other and to the earth. And I think that for me has been really helpful over the lockdown to feel connected to people even when you couldn't physically see them. And the final thing is just to keep it regular and make it part of your routine. Even if it's just 5 minutes, it really can improve how you see the world and how you experience it. I've had days where I've thought I don't really want to go outside because it is, it's raining or it's kind of windy. But actually, sometimes that's really invigorating, and it even if you just have that 5 minutes, even if it's in the rain, there's something about like feeling the climate and feeling the sort of being alive that is just really beautiful. And I think it's one of the joys. And so I just wanted to talk about that because I think the Wolfson Gardens can be used for more than just sort of looking at. So hopefully that was useful. I'll pass back to Oscar now just to round off some ideas and thoughts for the future of Wolfson Gardens. Thank you.
Thank you, Millie. That was fantastic. So, yes, I just want to encourage as many of you to get involved as possible. Wolfson, for me, means quite a lot. It's a place where I get paid to do the job I absolutely adore, and my boss, Darren, will sort of probably think about how he pays me now. So, yeah, I remember when my dad did die 2 years ago. He died on a Wednesday, and I was back to work by Monday because I just knew, even though it was work, the garden for me was the place where my headspace was going to be at the most settled. I could have been at home mourning, but I really would have been in the worst place. So coming back to Wolfson and to work in the gardens, I knew it was going to be the best place for me. And so to be head gardener here, I absolutely love it. I love seeing people absolutely interact with the garden, take pictures and sit there and relax. And so I just want as many people to understand them more, talk to us more about what's involved and what we're doing, and just get involved with the student garden and other activities. We're looking at doing a tree walk so that you'll have information in your hand, being able to see the 150 odd trees we have on site so you can understand more about that. And we're collaborating information about what plants are in what garden, so you can then sit there and learn a bit about what you're actually looking at, and then talk to us about what you don't know and then understand a little bit about what you're learning as well. So but people with COVID times went into green spaces more, and so it's amazing that we have seen people really appreciate green spaces more. So that's meant a lot to us. It's been a real Thanksgiving part for us, and we just want to take the energy we took from that and keep growing it. And the more we can reach out to you, the better it will be for the environment, and it will be better for your health. And it'd be better for just understanding what we have in Cambridge, because we are so blessed to also have the Botanic Gardens. So if you are around tomorrow or Saturday, we are doing a botanic tour at 1 till 3 and meet at the flagpole. And that would be really good fun to do as well. But other things you can get involved in. What does the future plan look like? Well, we want things to become more sustainable and environmentally friendly. It doesn't mean it's an easy journey, but it's a necessary journey. So we want to give more hints and advice on little things to bigger things. Some of them you already know, and some things will be brand new that will inspire you to keep for the rest of your life, hopefully, and teach other people around you as you go along. We want to do more interactive talks. I was talking to a student today about fungi. People love looking at mushrooms, but there's a whole world to understand about fungi and the importance to do with fungi. And to me, when you look at some of the facts and information about fungi, it slightly blows your mind. So there'll be lots of little interactive talks we'll be doing, which will actually get you into the garden itself, not just sitting at a desk or around a table or looking at a screen. So we want to get you out and about. Look out for more living lab projects. Maybe you have one in mind yourself. There's funding that you can apply for. And we really encourage you to bring something new to the table that will hopefully benefit the environment and benefit your studies. So do look out for S&C Hub and the Living Lab, and talk to Charlie Barty-King about any information you need or required, or do ask us as well. But we will be looking at detail on the planning that will be coming to Wolfson and what we can do better. It's an opportunity to do something absolutely extraordinary. We will hopefully be going to Floriade next year, which is an event in Amsterdam looking at sustainability and the new things that you can get with those issues. So be researching into projects to do with that, and green walls and green roofs and water recycling. So it really is exciting times ahead. The environmental issues don't have to be worrying. They can actually be an encouragement for change. So if you turn it around from a negative to a positive, your study and work can actually become quite an amazing thing. And so we'll probably get Chris, President's husband, involved in lots of other bits as well, get his expertise on building bits and bobs around the garden. And so it allows you to interact with more students you've not met, other staff you've not met, and it really just creates a place of study also into a real nice place of home where you live and where you study. And we really want the best out of it for you here at Wolfson. It's a great place, and we can do so much more for you. But we will have to work hard. It's not going to be an easy step, and that's why we have the S&C Hub, and that's why we have Green Impact, because we have to collaborate our minds together and come up with really simple to really complex ideas. And we're looking forward to the changes we can make here at Wolfson. There's a lot that we can do, so we will be working hard for you on that one. But do bring your own ideas. The more heads we have, the merrier. So many people have something so simple that's right in front of us that a few of us have really not seen. Do join the S&C Hub. Again, talk to Charlie Barty King about that, or email me at my email address there. But most important, we want you to love your garden, either if that's at home, if you're renting a place in Cambridge, or with your parents' garden, or here at Wolfson. We really just want you to interact with it and enjoy it. But we do ask you to respect your green space. We ask that you don't sort of throw a bit of litter on the floor, that you don't just sort of leave bits lying around, but you do think about the others using the space, and also the wildlife. You'll be surprised actually what wildlife there is here, and we'll be putting more cameras up to record it. But we just want to work towards a greener future for this generation and the future ones, because we all love it, we all understand now the importance of it, and we've got to a climate crisis where change really has to happen now. So the more we can do now, the better. And so thank you for listening to the talk today. If you have any questions, we are more than happy. But I just want to encourage you to add green into your life if you don't already have it, and to work better, because we can all make a positive change where we are. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got one question here.
I was wondering, does the garden use pesticides, and what is the policy on that?
So we are cutting back our chemical store. We do have to use glyphosate only in the paving, but we're certainly not just willy-nilly going around spraying chemicals. So we're looking carefully at what we have. We're also looking at the industry itself, what the laws are, what's happening across the world, because a lot of people sort of say glyphosate's not safe, and there have been some law cases against glyphosate being used in the environment and health and what have you. But we are not trying to use as much as we can, really. It's just really important that we work to more of an organic place. Products are coming through, but they're expensive, or they're just not practical in size. But we are always researching what the next product is to use other than chemicals, definitely so.
I was just going to mention as well, it reminds me, I was reading today about peat, because I was trying to think about ways I could incorporate that into what we do in the student garden. And so like peat bogs are a massive carbon sink, and so by digging them up, we're releasing that carbon back into the environment. So loads of campaigners are really saying we need to stop. And one of the massive like uses of peat isn't within sort of home gardening, it's in the plants that you buy from garden centres. And so I'd love to try and like work with Oscar to make sure that we're trying as hard as we can to convince where we're buying our plants from, that they don't contain peat in the compost. But we're not actively buying it anymore, but we're in the plants by default. But it has to contain that at the moment. So it would be really cool to work towards being a peat-free college. Yeah.
What's quite nice about having 50% of my team new this year is that they've brought knowledge on other nurseries they've used and more eco-friendly nurseries. So when we do buy, we're making sure that they're recycled pots or biodegradable pots, even better. So we are actually looking at our carbon footprint and actually trying to record the data in that. So we're actually taking a lot of data that I actually don't see, but is happening behind the scene, as it were, really.
Thank you ever so much for a really enjoyable speech, both of you. One kind of serious question and one slightly more light-hearted. Oscar, I don't know if you just could touch on your involvement in the kind of master plan and the kind of careful thoughts that the college is going through in terms of kind of tree preservation and general just garden preservation. And then also just my light question to both of you, just what would be your kind of favourite space to use, or that where would be that garden that you would tell the student that maybe not been out and about as much, where would you have been cross if they didn't visit?
So it's inevitable that Wolfson has to grow. There's a lot of demand for more PhD students, and we are set up for PhD students, so why not take the opportunity to do so when we can? But every detail of anything we do build will be scrutinised. It's not just a lump of concrete we're going to slab in the car park or in a garden that exists and take some trees down. Every member who's been on the panel so far with the architects have put the gardens and the green space to a high demand. So anyone who's looking at the plans in place don't need to worry, because we really are looking at everything in detail. We'll be looking at how we can harvest rain better. We'll be looking next year at the temperature of the courts. We'll be doing a thermal imaging of the college to see where's doing well and where's not doing so well. So we are looking at detail on climate issues, but it will be something that we have our hands full on making sure it's done right. We've looked at detail on what trees have TPOs and which don't, but anything we take out, we will certainly be putting back in and putting in place to re-establish new trees. So I certainly won't be looking at trees knocked down and not replaced. We'll be putting real green impact into what we build. And it's exciting because it means we can actually make positive change on what we do, but also be good for the college. We're excited about that.
Then what garden would you recommend to a student?
I might be biased and actually say Barton.
Yeah.
I think for me it's actually quite cosy. It's a real nice place where you come around the corner, you don't know what's there. It's quite quiet, so you can have a bit of you time or sit there with friends and just really enjoy the space. But I have really enjoyed seeing the student come into fruition, really. And the cutting garden next year is also a really exciting project. So I'm going to be biased and say Barton. But for those of you who haven't seen the exotic garden at Chadwick, then may I recommend you to go around there as well. That's a garden out of sight. That's around the corner of the skip and the car park. So I do encourage you to go and look at that garden, which is Chadwick, which is student garden itself. So do go around there and enjoy that too. Millie?
Some of the nicest moments I've had sitting in gardens and, as I said, like just being peaceful and like listening, was actually just sat out here, and it was like about 7 p.m. in the summer, and the bats were all flying around and catching insects, and I just found that really like nice that we're living in a city, but there's still like animals that feel like they can like behave as they normally would. And also, I used to live behind our block, and just sitting there at night, you can hear sort of tawny owls, like juvenile tawny owls screeching, and I really enjoy that as well. I think there's something about the animals just doing what they want that is like really nice and feels really like you're in a place where the wildlife is comfortable and it's like, yeah, established. But also the student garden, I suppose. I just like sitting there and experiencing that. Yeah.
I think what's positive also about the gardens is that there is probably something that would shock you that might benefit your research or your studies, but you won't know unless you get involved. But get your brains together and bring us ideas that we can benefit you within the garden and also your studies. That's our job, so let's get that rolling and get things moving and increase the popularity and use of the gardens.
I've got one question. Thanks so much. It's really interesting. And not least because the gardens have come on such a long way from when you look at old pictures and even in the last few years. And it's really exciting to see, so thank you. You mentioned you collect 9,000 litres of water. That's loads. I was just wondering, how do we do that?
So it is simple as water butts. They try to be in a place that's a bit more conspicuous, so you don't just see them straight in your face, and we choose a design that looks fitting within the area. If we could have underground storage one day, that would be absolutely fantastic. But each water butt can hold about 300 to 500 litres, and then we just use our watering cans to water the pots and water plants around us, and just use it when needed, really. And then when we hopefully do get a good downpour, they can actually fill up within a 20-minute downpour quite quickly. So they are pretty useful, and I'm really blessed that we actually have the space for them. I think some other colleges, they have these beautiful historic gardens, which mean, adding something as simple as a water butt and a garden committee means it's a little bit more difficult to implement, whereas here we're fortunate that we have the resources and the infrastructure in which to put it, so we're very lucky.
Fantastic, thank you. I've got one other question, if that's okay. I've heard tell that there are fruit trees dotted around the college, and I was wondering if that's true, and if so, can we pick them? How does that work?
You are more than welcome to pick them. I think the fact they're not really picked is because people don't actually know where they exist. And so what we'll be doing is probably putting a table in the student garden area where fruit can be put. But there's the apple trees in Chadwick. In the car park, you've got the plum hedges, which are nice and yellow and flavoursome. You've also got a plum tree outside the library. And we've got the medlars just outside here to make medlar jam. Very old style type of fruit, and absolutely fascinating to look at. And there's also the quince tree in the President's Garden. So there is quite a handful of fruit you can get your hand on. And again, it's just making information available to yourselves, which will be coming your way, so that you can utilise these things better. Because if anything's homegrown, you can use that within your cooking and eating, then why not? And maybe we might do some utilising that fruit within an alcoholic drink next year, just to see how that tastes as well. So look out for that space as well.
Not to be confused, the ornamental and non-edible pears in the car park, from some of my friends' experience, they are not edible, and they don't taste nice.
No, they're sadly not. They do create a lot of crop, but they're not edible. So don't come pick them. You might get a bit of a surprise, like you say. Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. They look so delicious.